Welcome back to So There I Was. I'm your host again, Travis Womack. Today's guest is Clay Novak, former paratrooper, amongst many other things. And I'm not biased for all the paratroopers, but I do have a whole lot of them on the show, being that I was once. It's a fun community. But he's the author of a book called Keep Moving, Keep Shooting. It's a first part to a 3-part series he's looking to get published. And but Clay, welcome to the show.
Hey man, thanks for having me. I mean, I'll sit down and talk to any old paratrooper. I'm not biased at all. None of us are.
There's a fun thing I always tell people about being a paratrooper is like, you knew going to work that everybody was just as dumb as you are. And like
Yeah, that's a true statement. In fact, so I know you're an old paratrooper yourself, and all of us in post-service time. I'm a retiree. And just a couple of years ago, I found a veterans group down in Florida of paratroopers that still jump static line round canopy.
Yes.
So I started jumping again a couple of years ago, but I'll tell you, the thing that's awesome is exactly what you said. I showed up there the first time, volunteered, like put myself on shoot detail. We were chucking mains and reserves and loading them on the truck and all that stuff. But it was like within 5 minutes, it was like being right back home again.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know I knew one guy, but we're all 2 degrees separated. This guy? What unit did you serve and all that stuff? It was, and within 10 15 minutes I had 35 new friends. I mean,
That's
it was
awesome.
it's amazing. Yeah, Phantom Airborne Brigade, if you're interested in jumping again.
I've actually heard of that. I have a very good friend that lives in Florida, and he tells me about that because there's one here in Texas. I think it's like the Texas 47 or something like that.
Yeah, there's 5 or 6 floating around out there. Phantom's awesome. I love it. Super involved, and it's one of those things that brings veterans back together, which is so important to all of us post-service. But great organization, great people, especially for all of us old paratroopers.
Yeah, I don't know if my back or my doctor would approve it at this point, but I would love to be on that.
Oh no! See, here's the out. We do 2 water jumps a year, and so we have one double amputee that's jumped with us, and 3 paraplegics that we wrap up like a door bundle, no joking around. Load everybody in the aircraft. We put these guys in the door, and green light comes on over Lake Dora, and out they go. And the sheriff's boat picks them up. Yeah, it's amazing. The double amputee has jumped with Chris Corbin, who's an old 82nd guy, Ranger, SF dude. Jumps with his dog, static line, which I'd never seen before.
That's awesome.
We also have a guy, Freddie, who is 90, who still jumps with us. Water jumps.
Awesome.
Went to jump school in the 50s. In the 50s, and he's still jumping.
Imagine those stories of like the towers back in the day.
Oh, I'm sure, just absolute craziness. I mean, I know, I got to 82nd in 99, and I know things were, kind of on the downhill slide of reckless, as far as airborne ops go. I think we were pretty organized and pretty safe. But the stuff that you hear from the guys who jumped in the 80s is insane. Absolutely crazy.
So I had a good a buddy of mine when I was enlisted back in the day. He was his great granddad was World War I. His granddad jumped into Normandy, and his dad jumped into Vietnam.
Wow.
And, so he was like a 4th generation soldier, 3rd generation paratrooper. And so wanted to jump. They were supposed to jump into Baghdad, and they got scratched.
Yeah, the buy-up jump. Yeah.
And he was pissed. So, but all of them are still. Oh, his great granddad's obviously dead, but his granddad came to one of the All American weeks.
Oh, that's awesome.
So he walked through the barracks with us, and I mean, he should have been the president. Like the stories that dude could tell were epic, and
yep,
it was awesome. It was like, so the plane was this small? Good God, how did y'all do that?
And Phantom Airborne, we jump out of a D-Day C-47, and let me tell you something. You told me you're 6'4". There's some big guys down there. That door's tiny.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how those guys did that with all that combat equipment, all that stuff. That door is small, brother.
Jump out and you're like, what happened? I don't know. I blacked out. No, you hit the frame. Oh, that makes more sense.
Yeah, right.
Got knocked out, but gotten close to that before. So, well, let's kind of walk through your career a little bit, and obviously not just brag. And I'm sure you've been around more than a day or two.
Yeah. So I'm a Chicago kid, come from a blue collar family. I had an older sister and a younger sister. My older sister was already in college when I went to college, and obviously I've got a little sister behind me, and my parents both working, and it's challenging. So I went to college on a Pell Grant first year, and then the second year my parents were like, "Hey, you're going back to school, but you got to figure out how to pay for it." And a friend of mine who was in a very similar situation went to a National Guard recruiter and found out that in the state of Illinois, if you enlist in the National Guard and you go to a state school, they pay your tuition.
Hmm.
So November 1992, I enlisted in the National Guard as an 11 Bravo. And summer of 93, I went through basic and AIT at glorious Fort Benning, Sand Hill, 258. And and I fell in love with the Army. I
Yeah.
really did. Fell in love with it. Hated being a private. and
Fair.
I had a great, amazing drill sergeant who was a longtime Ranger guy who he kind of took me under his wing for well, I know why, and it's one of those awesome, funny stories. But
We're here for
uh, well, I was on CQ one night, and it was his birthday, and his girlfriend showed up with a
it.
cake
It's already a good
and a
story.
dress, and I'm pretty sure nothing on under the dress.
Yeah.
And I stood guard outside the day room for like 3 shifts of CQ. And then she went home. And anyway, so I was like,
3 shifts a long time. I don't think you understand.
listen, man,
That's
but
impressive.
I was his guy after that. I'm not kidding. Like he's like, listen, you're going to college. You're a National Guard guy. You're in college, right? Yeah. He's like, okay, you go back. You go to ROTC, become an officer. He goes, and I'm going to spend the next however many weeks we had left. I'm going to spend the next 8 weeks or whatever, through AIT teaching you how. And he did. And
That's
he did.
awesome.
He Yeah, it was great. And so anyway, so I did. I went back to school, signed up ROTC full time, and really all I wanted to do was be an infantryman. So I barely got out of college because I had a great social life. And then and I got what I wanted. I got active duty infantry, and I went on active duty in 95, summer 95, because it took me an extra semester to get through college. And I went on, I went to the Benning School for Boys. I did the basic course, airborne school, ranger school. Got to do Florida twice because I'm lucky like that. And then I went to Bradley leader course. So I went into ranger school. I was supposed to go to Hawaii. That was supposed to be my first assignment. And we got to OBC and they were like, who's got orders for Hawaii? So like 25 of us raise our hands. They're like, okay, put your hand down. Like, that's not good.
That's tough.
And so that the island was downsizing from 3 brigades. The division was from 3 brigades
Hmm.
to 2 brigades. So all of us but one got our orders cut. It got switched. So I went to Ranger School having no idea what my follow-on was going to be. And I graduated, and they're like, here's your orders for your tab. Here's your order for Bradley Leaders Course. Here's your orders for Fort Riley, Kansas. I'm like, what?
Ooh,
What? So
that
I
shit's
did my
different.
lieutenant time at Fort Riley, which actually was a great place to learn. It was the late 90s. Fort Riley wasn't going anywhere. I went to NTC twice in a year. The first year I was there as a staff guy, and then as a platoon leader, it was awesome. I learned a lot. I had some great NCOs, but the pace was perfect for a lieutenant to learn.
Yeah.
Then I went to the career course, and then I went to Bragg. And I honestly was very reluctant to go. I wanted to go to the 101st for whatever reason. Best thing in the world, going to the 82nd. So I went to 3rd Brigade. I was a staff guy for 15 months. Took command of a rifle company, Bravo 3505.
Oh, there you go.
Five. And then I was in command when 9/11 happened.
I was going to
And
ask you that. The timeline was
yeah,
pretty close
yeah,
to me.
I was a company commander that morning. I was still sweaty in PTs when it happened. And we've all got our story about that
Oh, yeah.
day. And the one that I'll never forget is my ops sergeant, because his name was Sergeant Pupolo. And of course, because he's in the Army and his last name's Pupolo, his name is Poopy,
But yeah, I was
as
about to
it
say
should be.
that's terrible.
Yeah. So Poopy came in my office and he's like, "Hey, sir, plane crash into the trade centers." So in my head, like I spinning, I'm like, "Who crashed the Cessna
Yeah,
into
that's
the,
what I thought too.
right?" So walk out there and, into the day room with the big screen TV that weighed, about 2,500 pounds and, watched the fledgling, smoke coming out of the building and all that stuff. And, it was an airliner and all this. And I went back, I was like, oh, that's awful, and I went back to my office and, however long later it was, he comes back in my office and he goes, and I'll never forget this because these were his exact words. Sir, they did it again. That's what he said. And I was like, who did what? What are you talking about? They crashed another plane into the other World Trade Center. And I'm like, it's got to be a different camera angle. He's like, no, sir, two planes, two towers. And I was like, fuck. So,
Now the game.
my first, yeah, right. They did it again. Those were his exact words. So my first sergeant was actually my real first sergeant. I had a platoon sergeant standing in, but my real first sergeant was getting surgery done on his feet that day. He'd been an infantryman so long, like his two big toes were like this, So he was supposed to get like the bones cut and get them straightened out and that kind of thing. So he's on the table, IV in his arm, and he saw that he was at Womack, right? And he saw the footage and
It's my hospital.
Pulled it out and came to work. But in the meantime, I looked at my acting first sergeant and I said, I don't know what's going on. None of us do. I think we were on DRF2. So I think we were on 4 hour. I know we were on recall. I think we were on the 2. So I think we were on 4 hour. And, but I just kind of looked around and I was like, listen, the guys that live off post, tell them they got 1 hour. Go home, get back. The guys who live in the barracks, start drawing weapons. And he looks at me and goes, sir? And I'm like, fuck, man. You know how long that takes? Like, let's just do it now. If we got to put them back, we'll put them back.
Yeah.
So a couple hours later, the battalion commander calls all the company commanders in and, kind of gives us hey, we're not going anywhere because we don't know where we would be going if we did. And so, yeah, right. I mean, we didn't know. But he's like, we're probably going to be on a, contingent to guard the MIVA sites here on Fort Bragg. And I was like, well, shit, sir. I was like, Bravo Company already drew weapons. He goes, what'd you do that for? I was like, shit, I don't know. So we ended up being first on shift, and we spent the first 3 days closing down and guarding all the MIVA sites on Fort Bragg. So I didn't go home for 3 days after that. But ramped up. And 3rd Brigade, 101st went. You remember all this.
Oh, yeah.
101st went. And then 382, we got picked to backfill them in OIF2, I guess we called it. So it was June of 02, and truthfully, I got a reprieve. I was supposed to be out of command and got stabilized. So I got to train a rifle company for like 16 months and then take them to combat. It was like the perfect thing in the world.
So yeah, camaraderie there, ready to go.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
It was such a great company, great guys. I mean, like I said, everybody had a nickname. A lot of them are not very PG, but it was awesome. And we were a very good company. I know everybody says that, right? But we were a good company.
Oh, that's a value that people don't understand. I preach that all the time. Not to cut you off there. Because I was in 1325 from 03 to 08, but we deployed 05, 06, and 07, and we were fenced in the whole time. So I mean, I had a platoon. We didn't have a single E3 or below. It was all senior E4s, or we had like 12 E5s. We had 5 E6s. Like, we got a problem here. We don't know who's in charge. We know who's in charge, but it's a great. You function better with that time. I think looking back at the old days, that's kind of, they trained together for a long time and then went.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we were tight. I mean, it was a good unit. We were actually the only. It happened. I had 3 kids who were on tap to go to Ranger School when we got our deployment orders, and it was funny. It was almost like a Band of Brothers thing. They all came in my office. Sir, we're not going. We're going on deployment with you guys. And I looked at it and said, no, you're not. Like, listen, this war is not going anywhere, and you guys need to go to Ranger School. No time like the present. So I told him, I said, go. Graduate, come back. If you make it through straight through, no problem. You come back, and if you still want to deploy, we'll give you a couple of weeks of leave, and then we'll bring you over. And they all did. They all passed, and they all came over.
Awesome.
And back then, General Vines had a policy that any company that had 20 enlisted Rangers in it got a 4-day pass because it just didn't happen. Yeah. Well, those 3 guys got us to 21. Now we're in theater, and
Yeah.
one of my smart ass kids, the first time we saw General Vines, was like, "Hey, sir, Bravo Company's got 20 enlisted Rangers now. We actually have 21. Do we get a 4-day pass?" And I don't know if you know General Vines,
Epic.
but yeah, he looked at him. He goes, "Yeah, as soon as we get home. Now shut the fuck up and get back to work." Just he was the Viper. That's just how he
Yeah.
was. Right?
Uh,
But he laughed. He said it
yeah.
very jokingly, very lovingly because he loved all the paratroopers. Anyway, so we got home December of 2002. I hung around for about 6 months or so. And then I went to a little bit of purgatory time. I worked at Fort Leavenworth for 2 years. I went to staff college for a year. And then I got on a hot cycle that was pretty rare for officers back then. So I went to Korea right out of staff college. I did 12 months over there unaccompanied. And then I came back and I was going right back to 382, right back to the 82nd, my old brigade. But it was in the middle of the surge. And
Hmm.
so they had 4 months or so while I was on my way back from Korea. And I was going to be the brigade plans officer. So they just said, "Hey, just meet us at Bragg." Okay. So I got home. I literally got back to the US and I got an email that said, "You need to get to Bragg ASAP." So I called my old brigade. I'm like, "Hey, what the hell?" They're like, "Well, the brigade plans officer got fired and they need you in theater right now." So packed up the family,
Oh
moved
my
to
gosh.
Bragg, shoved them in a house, got on a plane, went over there for 3 months, a little over 3 months, and then came. So again, 12 months in Korea, home for less than
Oh,
30, home for less than 30, and then on a plane
moved.
to Iraq for 3 months, home for 12, right? Take over as the S3 in 2505. Go to Baghdad, spend 6 months as the S3, 6 months as the XO, come home. I'm home for 7 months. Then I go to Kabul for 13 months. I was General Rodriguez was the
Yeah.
commander of ISAF,
I said, yeah.
uh, IJC, right? The three
Yeah.
star ground command. I was his aide for 13 months, right? So in that span of 60 months, I spent 40 months in Asia, whether
Wow.
Korea, Iraq,
Some
or
version. Yeah.
Afghanistan,
Yeah.
and a lot, so it was 40 out of 60. So I wasn't in the 50-50. I was in a literal two-thirds,
Wow.
one-thirds. And then I came back from being Rod's aide, which was the most educational and rewarding job that I had while I was in. And I was the division rear chief of staff for the division. They went to Kandahar,
Oh yeah.
and so General Huggins, who was Panther 6 when I was a company commander, was now All American 6, and he
Hmm.
asked me, he's like, "Hey, look, I know you're back. I know you need some rest, but I need you to be the chief." So I was the chief for about 10 months. And then I went to Fort Bliss. I got to the Army and its infinite wisdom after, all those years of being a paratrooper sent me to First Armored Division to be a heavy cav commander. So listen, I took over 213 Cav, which was another great organization. It was in a lot of turmoil at the time. Um, Not because of leadership or anything, but because of mission cycle, and the Army was in a very weird place. And so I did my fifth and my last deployment as an advisor. I did the SFAT mission.
Yeah.
I advised an Afghan brigade, so I went right back to Eastern Afghanistan. I did another 6 months there, and then I came back. The problem at the time was First Armored Division. Um, well, the Army was going back to 3 brigades as a whole, so all the divisions were going to cut a brigade.
Right.
And the division chain of command at the time made a bad assumption and thought, well, 4th Brigade is the newest brigade, so that's the brigade that'll get cut. Well, they started piecemealing all of our equipment, and I didn't
Yeah.
have any as a heavy cav squadron. I had no Humvees, zero, and that's two-thirds of the fleet,
Yeah.
none of them. But the problem was the Army was getting rid of 3rd Brigade, which was the light brigade. So then we had to refield all the vehicles. We were training
Yeah.
very, very baseline. But I commanded 213 Cav Sabres for 2 years, and then I went to NTC and was back on jump status. I was Tarantula 07 for a year out there,
Dang.
which was pretty awesome to be the senior paratrooper on the installation, run the entire airborne program. And then I ended up for various reasons, I ended up Carlisle Barracks, and got what happened to a lot of us because of an incident. I had and I say this in all honesty, I had an adverse reaction to alcohol one night. I have about 12 concussions is what the
Yeah.
doctors can estimate between being an athlete and a full contact boy and Army stuff and being a paratrooper for 10
Yeah.
years. I banged my noggin. But I also got diagnosed with complex PTSD.
Yeah.
Probably directly related to that high tempo 40 out
Oh
of
yeah.
60 months life
That'll do
I
it. Yeah.
led. And I literally I had a night where I had 2 drinks and I completely blacked out. And I got out of hand. I got violent.
Yeah.
And it kind of put an end to my career. Now I stayed in for a while. Truthfully, my last job in the Army, I worked at Carlisle Barracks, and I I ran the General Officer Professional Education Program for like 2 years before I retired. It was a mission the War College had been given by General Odierno,
Mm-hmm.
and it was kind of a mess, and he wanted it organized before as he was retiring. So the War College got tasked with it, and because I had been an aide for a 3-star general and I knew a whole bunch of friggin' generals,
Yeah.
they gave and truthfully I needed a place to cool my heels for a little bit, so they
Yeah.
gave me that job and I did it. And I could have stayed in uniform, but my body had quit. My brain was, in a bad spot, and I needed to, kind of take some time and reset myself. So I decided to retire. And so after 19 years, or not 19 years, 24 years on active duty, I put in my paperwork and I retired. Retired as a lieutenant colonel. I kind of I hate to say casualty of war, but I mean, as a result, probably like you, I mean, I'm
Yeah.
100% disabled, total and
Yeah.
permanent, the Army took its toll. And so, yeah. And
Yeah.
then, that was the long and the short of it.
I always joke with if you've seen the movie Princess's Bride,
Yeah.
the torture scene, I took a year of your life away. That was a joke in our platoon. Whenever we jumped, it took a year of your life away. And it's how it feels sometimes when you're
Yeah.
6'4", 230 hitting the ground. It's like, oh, can we get a better parachute? Dear God.
Yep. And they did, and it
Yeah.
still sucks.
So I forever get the privilege of saying I got to test jump one of those.
Oh, a T-11?
Yeah, because I was in
Yeah.
2000 and spring of 06.
Oh,
So
wow. That was
so
early.
so we our scout platoon, like I said, we had our 1 through 5. There were 4 Green Berets out of 7th group, 3rd group, one of those, one of the ones on Bragg back then, and they all went to OCS together. They all branched infantry, and all 4 of them came to 1 3 2 5. So Alpha, Bravo, and Charlie and Delta Company all had long tabbed
Holy cow.
EL, so we were stacked. and so like training went from here to here like the next day. It was awesome.
That's
Um,
amazing.
and so and they all 3 of them were on the same group, same ODA, and so they're all A teamers, and so
Wow.
it was our room clearing techniques
Yeah. Yeah.
greatly improved.
Yeah.
That's what their team was,
Sure.
and is
Yeah.
I mean everything just PT everything just got pushed up a bar,
Pretty awesome.
really quick. And but one of the things we did, they had connections, lots of connections at Camp McCall,
Oh, yeah. Oh,
and
imagine.
they knew how to call their buddy. Hey man, let's
Yeah.
do this. So like we volunteered our platoon like every week just to go be the pick on these
Yeah.
guys platoon. Like, hey, you need a some op 4, I'll give you some good op 4. For
Yeah.
us, it was like, can they, we're recon, so can they find us? Can we watch them and then not know we're watching? So it was like some great,
Sure.
super advanced land nav stuff. It was a great time. But one of them was the XM110 was being tested.
Oh,
The
yeah.
the new
The
sniper rifle.
SR-25.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So back then, before they changed the name, and so we got to shoot that, get them all zeroed, shoot them, and then jump them out of every freaking aircraft the Army has on its fleet. We'd land,
Yep.
go to the range, did it maintain zero. Good thing we jump. I got like 6 jumps in one day,
Yep.
and so it was a lot of fun. So it was I always look at that and be like, man, I bought paint for that day still to this day. Because I remember going to bed that night being like, 6 is too many. 6 is too. Oh.
Listen, man, so when I was the chief, I left company command with 30 something, I guess, 40 something, and then, came back as a major and we were deployed like crazy. So there
Oh,
wasn't a
yeah.
lot of jumping going on.
Yeah.
And so I was in the 50s when I was the chief of staff, and I went to the rear detachment commander and I said, "Hey, sir, listen, I want an opportunity, or at least have the potential to be on jump status later on in life.
Yeah.
And to do that at the 0506 level, you got to be a master rated guy. That's all there is to it."
Yeah.
I said, I've never chased before, but for the next until I leave here, like my goal is to get my master wings. And he was like, get after it, man. Have a good time. So, I had it in with the advanced airborne school. I jumped with them all the time as often as I could. It was always funny because I'm like a baby lieutenant colonel, and I'm the division chief of staff. Like all the all the brigade commanders would tell me to shut up.
Yeah.
But I'd go jump with the units, and they'd have a -1 for me. They'd have me at the front of the air. I'd always have door position.
Oh, yeah.
Like they treated me like the chief. It was pretty nice. But I did 63, 4, and 5 in an hour and 30 minutes
That's awesome. Well,
out of Blackhawks.
I was gonna say it's
Yeah,
the Blackhawks. Those are the best ever.
yeah. So it was a fly. So I was number one jumper, number one aircraft. They had 3 Blackhawks, but all 3 times, and I was like lift 1, lift 7, and lift 15 or something
Yeah.
like that. And 3 Hawks. We lifted off of Sicily. We flew over to Normandy or Salerno, and my driver was sitting there waiting for me, and I'd land at the PI, and he'd help me bag up my chute and throw it in the truck, and he'd drive me back over to Sicily, and I'd rig up again. And actually, it was awesome because the G3 air guys were running the drop zone.
Oh, yeah.
It was all the guys. I was the chief, and they all worked for me, and how half of them had been NCOs of mine, before,
Right.
and anyway. And so on the last one, the third one, number 65, I literally put it on the VS-17 panel because I had jumped the exact same jump,
Right.
twice already that day. Steered it right in, and they're
That's
just
awesome.
yelling at me not to hit the generator and knock over the coffee maker. That's, that's all they cared about. But yeah, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
It's sore. You're sore the next day. I remember.
Oh yeah.
You're feeling it. I had that airborne school. It was rain. They're like, and clear, go. So we got 3 jumps in one day in airborne school, and I was like, I hurt everywhere. So
yeah, we when I was at NTC, because before I got there, they were jumping a lot of weird aircraft and all Hollywood and all this other stuff, and there was supposed to be this massive JFEX coming out there the summer I left, and I'm talking like 82nd Rangers, white soft, black soft, like it was a big friggin' exercise, and my OCs had to be able to do all that stuff, and they had to be able to do it safely. So we started doing what I call day-night double headers. We would get a Marine C-130 out of Miramar, and they would fly in, and we would jump daytime door bundles. We'd push door bundles, right? Yeah. And we would jump daytime, and then everybody would assemble, and we would go back to the airfield. We'd rig up again combat equipment, and then we would jump again at night. So we would do, and we did quite a few of those. But it was good practice because, those guys, and a lot of those guys had never been paratroopers before, right? So they'd been on, either airborne qualified, but never really been in
There's
a difference. Unit.
There's a difference in
it's
the
huge difference. So just the little things like land, derig your ruck, put your night vision on, you do all those, what do they call them? Pedal tasks, the paratrooper essential task list, right? So you do all that crap. Right?
Right.
So, it was good for the organization. And I was happy we were doing it. But yeah, like the day after that, I was like, what the hell am I doing? Why am I doing this?
That was a bad idea.
Yeah. And let me tell you something. Jumping to NTC is no joke. Like there is not a good drop zone in that place. And there's a lot of them.
So I'm going to make you mad just real quick because it's fun.
Shoot.
So 20 years in the Army, 20 years and 23 days, right? 4 combat deployments. I've never stepped foot at NTC. I've never stepped foot at JRTC. and I've never been to Korea.
Wow. The JRTC one is a little surprising.
Yeah.
Korea, not so much. And even NTC, if you were a light guy the whole time, not so much. But
I was
the
in a
fact that,
HIMARS unit for 3 years and never went to
yeah,
NTC.
but still, man, like to never go to JRTC and all that 82nd time, that's a little shocking.
So,
But good.
so, so second brigade didn't go for almost a decade at all.
Wow.
So
I had no idea.
so 325 went to JRTC in '02. So when you were in Afghanistan,
Yeah.
and they went and
Yeah, they actually took our spot.
right. And so all my friends, I got there in February of 04. No.
Yeah, we were supposed
So,
that was our rotation.
yeah, and so they jumped in on that, and then while they were there, they had, as the legend goes, they had a javelin, and it has a tootsie roll,
Oh,
and
yeah.
the round counter is like supposed to be like 1 or 2, was 100, and so they're just taking out vehicles left and right, and totally like, I mean, I'm sorry, I was an enlisted paratrooper. I'm like, there's no rules in war. It says 100, so I'm going to shoot 100. And
Yeah. Do it until somebody tells me to stop.
You're violating the so like that's all my friends said will happen, and they were like, they just didn't go. And so when they went to the invasion of Iraq, they're on some island out there, Alpha Kuwait, doing some awesome room clearing, some abandoned village, and then the op tempo just never allowed for it ever again. So
I believe it.
So they got back from was it April or February of 03, invasion of Iraq, came back around. They got home in January of 04, and I got there February of 04. And then that year of 04 was the only downtime that unit had for a long time. We deployed to Afghanistan in 05. We deployed to Iraq 06. We're home for 3 weeks, deployed to Iraq again for the surge.
Yep. Yep.
And then
that was Billy Don Ferris, right?
Yep.
Was he got shot during that deployment? I know all those guys.
So Colonel Ferris got shot, but how he got command's even more entertaining. Because we had a different brigade commander before Colonel Ferris. We had a different for 2 weeks, and he jumped and got a gust of wind and landed into a Humvee and broke his back.
Broke his back, yeah.
Yep.
I do remember that.
We had to change of command twice in 2 weeks. We're like, well, we were just here. This is awkward. And
Ferris is a good man. I mean, he was when I was in 3505, when I first got to Bragg in 99, he was the 1505 commander.
Mm-hmm.
And it was always good to us, not in his battalion, was always a good guy. Always liked him. When he got shot, I was in Korea. And I kind of reached back, as we all tend to do, and like, holy shit, who was it? That kind of thing. And I knew a whole bunch of peers in that brigade throughout all the battalions. And
they were living it rough in Solder City for sure.
Yeah. And there were a bunch of guys from 3505 that were over in 325, because they were doing the McChrystal, support, support, all that kind of stuff.
Well, that was what was crazy, because 06 was when they did the realignment and created the CAV, the 4th Brigades and all that stuff.
Yep.
And so we had a CAV unit. All of a sudden we're like, what the heck? What's a BSB? We never heard of this thing. What's a truck? Vehicles? Yeah. What is this nonsense?
Yeah.
So we did a swap. We did our Charlie company for 173 Charlie Troop. And then so we did that, and then the rest of the brigade replaced us in 06 and did all the cool soft stuff after we were already doing it. And that's where Ivan got hurt. And it was a crazy time. I look back on that all the time. Like, people will never understand like the chaos of about an 8-year window.
Yeah, and it's funny because I left Leavenworth and went to Korea, and my only goal, truthfully, was to get back to Bragg. That's all I wanted to do. And people were like, "Oh, you're going to Korea? You should make it a 3-year assignment. You could bring your family over there, or if you don't want to go to Korea, go to Sam's, and then to do." And I was like, "Guys, there's a fucking war going on. It's like this, and I know I've been once already, but like we should all be going. Like you should want to go, especially if you're a combat arms guy. Like, you should be jumping at the opportunity to go."
Yeah.
So I got to Korea, and I kid you not, man, they made me the Brigade S4, and listen, I had a great
I'm
year.
sorry.
Well,
I'm an
you know,
S4. I can say I'm sorry.
in the Army's infinite wisdom, I had been a battalion S4 in an airborne brigade, in an airborne battalion, and then they needed another logistic. They were short a logistics major. They needed somebody to be the brigade S4, and they're like, "Well, this guy's done it. Absolutely nothing the same in a heavy brigade."
Yeah.
Um, so like the first night I had an office, I stayed up and I called HRC, called infantry branch, and I'm like, okay, I'm here. How the fuck do I get back to Bragg?
Yeah.
And I started working my return assignment, no kidding, the day
That
I
day.
got there.
Yeah.
And it worked out for me. But you talk about transformation, Korea transformed. They were already in a weird task organization before transformation. So they had light, heavy, they had light battalion, air assault battalion, a mech battalion, and a tank battalion, all in the same brigade.
400 artillery battalions.
Yeah, it was all kinds of crazy stuff. But and then they still had Div Cav and all that. So I'm the brigade S4, and they sent a brigade from Korea to Iraq, and then it went from Iraq to Fort Lewis, right? Never came back to Korea.
Never came home. Yeah, I remember that.
Right. So when they left, they took equipment with them. And Second Infantry Division like gave them everything they wanted. So I get there and I get to Korea, and my property book warrant officer comes to me. He's like, "Hey, sir, we have a piece of equipment that we really have to find." And I'm like, "Okay." I was like, "What is it?" He goes, "It's a OH-58 Delta." I'm like, "A helicopter? We lost a helicopter?" He goes, "Nobody knows where it is." And I'm like, "You're shitting me." He's like, "No." He goes, "In transition, when they broke down Div Cav and they were pushing all the equipment around, and somebody lost track of it." And I was like, "Oh, okay, we lost a helicopter." Like I've been there for like a week. so so he asked me, he goes, can I stay? Can I work nights so that I could call back to the States and see if I could track this thing down? And
Right. Time difference sucks. Yeah.
yeah, sure. The 14-hour time difference. So I was like, "Yeah, Chief, go ahead." So, I would either stay a little late or I would come in a little bit early, and do some work with them. And it took us a little while, but the thing, it got sent back to Bell Helicopters for an upgrade or a retrofit or
Never came
something,
back. Yeah.
and never came back because
Wow.
the aviation unit was gone and nobody had any record of it. So
Wow.
thankfully they took pictures of the data plate for us and sent it. So, we cleared all of it. But yeah, for a little while, the Second Infantry Division was missing.
I laugh at that though, because like that's one helicopter. And like when all the crap was going on, the when we're leaving the country, it was, oh,
Yeah.
we got all these planes. And so I'm like, I'm sorry, I am a loggy. Like I've seen people like freak out and like they're gonna lose their life and career over a missing iPhone,
Yeah.
or I mean, or a radio, like, or we got recalled because we lost a set of nods.
Yeah.
They're doing it the night before
And
the night before deployment. They're doing inventory and we're missing a set
yeah.
of nods, and they called us all in. I was at Texas Roadhouse off of Yakin Road, you know, and like my mom and girlfriend at the time were like, "What? I'm like, I gotta go. You don't understand. Like, they will kill
Yeah.
us if we're not there in formation." And
Yeah.
we're all just standing there. I'm in t-shirts and shorts, being like, "We're allowed to see my family right now, but we're apparently missing some nods." So I always laugh, and people are like, "Oh, we just lose equipment." I'm like, "No, we don't.
No.
What's
No, we don't. We don't lose
we
equipment.
we do a lot of stuff really stupid. Lose equipment's not one of them."
Not one of them. Nope.
So,
Nope.
like, if you only
Yeah.
knew the heart attacks that everybody, like, there's two things that every single veteran, like the anxiety level goes from 0 to 100. That's being late and not knowing where something is.
Yeah, that's right. You
So
are 100% correct.
I was like,
Like I'm still like now I'm like, before we did this, like I'm down here in my office in my basement, and I was
yeah,
down here 15 minutes early. And like,
exactly.
earlier this afternoon I test fired, I ran all the scans on the computer so they wouldn't interrupt
Yep.
our record.
Yep.
That's what we do, that's who we are.
Yeah.
And it's never gonna change.
Out of the 30 episodes I've recorded, I think about 29 of them have started about 10 minutes early because they're already
Yeah.
logged in. I'm like, well, here we
Yeah.
go. So
Right. Yeah.
it's pretty fun. My wife's like, you're always ready. I'm like, you don't understand. It's never gonna go away ever.
Yeah.
Like
No.
the fear. If you've been a private, it's even worse. You're like,
Yes.
you don't understand. Someone else was late and I got in trouble. Like,
Yeah.
explain
Yeah.
that one.
Yeah.
Like my
Well,
arm
and
is
it's,
still sore from Bobby over there being an idiot.
yeah, it goes back to the commander says formations at this
Oh
time.
yeah,
First
rolls
sergeant takes
downhill.
somebody, he takes 15. The platoon sergeant takes another
Yeah.
15. Squad leader takes 15.
Oh yeah.
I mean, next thing you know, it's a 6:30 formation. You're out there at 5:15.
Yeah. Oh,
Nobody
division runs the
knows
worst. You're
why.
like, it's 3 in the morning. We're not running until like 7. Why are we here?
Listen, I'll tell you the worst one. That no joke. All American Week, 2008. All American Week 2008. President Bush
Yep.
was the
Speaker.
guest speaker, right? Were you there? Were you there that day?
I was in formation of that one.
Right. So, yeah, right. So we all had to you remember, we all had to go with weapons. We had to go through metal detectors.
Yep.
It was the dumbest shit ever. Yep. Like, you got rifles, machine guns, you got guys with pistols, you had all that stuff, but we still had to go through metal detectors, so we were there, that morning to get through all that crap. I think the whole division was there at like 02. It was insane.
Early. Yeah. I left for
Oh my
recruiting
God, it
right
was
after
nuts.
that. So I just
Oh,
I left.
you should have left before.
I was trying to like get me out of here because I'm 6'4". So my division reviews, I did.
Oh yeah.
The first time I ever did, I was a 240 gunner. So I had to carry that stupid thing, and then we wanted to run
modified
down,
port arms.
we had to run down our den stream. Like, I have a 240. Running like sprinting is not a good idea for any of us in this front row. And then I always hated that. And then luckily 325 was pretty close. If you're a Panther, it's like, it's a long run.
That was us. Yeah.
If you're artillery, you're like, we'll just see y'all next year.
Yeah.
But then I was a guidon bearer the next year. I'm like, I hate being tall. This sucks. And then I was deployed. Because I was on 4 and 05. 6 and 7 were gone. And then oh wait, I was just a guy in the formation somehow. I'm like, thank God. Finally being a staff sergeant finally pays off for me. But other ones as a private, I didn't get a vote. So but let's shift gears. I want to hear about your book a little bit. Give you a little plug here. So what inspired I've had lots of authors and leadership books here, and one guy wrote a great thing, The Paratrooper's Guide to Life. It's great. It's hilarious. Highly want to recommend that one too. But yours is a little bit different. It's not a, my career is so awesome, so you should read about it. It's more of a novel.
Yeah. So when I was getting ready to retire, when I was in the process of retiring, I had some former mentors, old bosses that were like, listen, you're going to step into the civilian world and the op tempo of your life is going to crash. It's going to be much slower. It's hard for people to adjust. Make sure you've got something to keep your brain engaged, right? And just working is not going to do it. And the worst thing you can do is just stop doing shit, right? So, but they both said the word, find something creative to do. Now, I never consider myself a creative guy, so I was like, all right, well, I don't know what the hell that means. So I was talking to a buddy of mine, one of my fellow company commanders from when I was captain, and he was like, well, hey, man, you were always a good staff writer. You always produced good written products for the Army. Why don't you write a book? Or why don't you write something, And I immediately came to that conclusion of, well, there's so many books that nobody wants to hear Clay Novak's war stories. Like, there's too many of those out there. Nobody gives a shit. So my best friend in the world is a Hollywood guy. He's my best friend from growing up. Like, we're like brothers. But he's a TV writer, director, producer, did a little bit of acting. And I was talking to him and he's like, hey man, write fiction. He's like, you can write whatever the hell you want. You want to write about space? You want to write about diseases? You can make up whatever you want. There's no rules.
Good point.
So I was working in the business world, which I hated. Well, I grew to hate because the lack of purpose is awful.
Yeah.
At least for me. So what I was doing was I was writing a little bit, lunchtime, waiting for meetings, that kind of stuff. 10 minutes here, 15 minutes there. And I never had any intent to publish, and I didn't even know what I was writing, truthfully. And I wrote about half of this story, probably about 100 plus pages, 120 pages. And then, work got busy and I kind of set it aside. And then, COVID hit. Mm-hmm. And life slowed down a lot. So I picked it back up again, and I got about three-quarters of the way through it, and I'm like, well, let's see if I can finish this thing. Like,
Yeah.
let's top off this novel. And so I finished it, and my dad is a voracious reader, just eats books.
Hmm.
So I sent it to him, and I sent it to my buddy, the TV guy. And my dad, being, your typical blue collar Chicago, like dirty hands kind of guy, was like, "Hey, that was a really good book. Don't quit your day job." And yeah,
Thanks,
right.
Dad.
Yeah. And my buddy, the TV guy, was like, "Hey, that was a really good book." And then it sat for a whole year because I was like, "Hey, I wrote a book. It's totally satisfied.
Yeah.
Like, never intended to publish, right?" And then about a year later, my buddy, the TV guy, he's like, "Hey, listen, I've kept my mouth shut long enough. Nobody writes a 300-page novel and doesn't do anything with it. Like, you have to do something with this."
Yeah.
So I looked at self-publishing, which I didn't have the time or the inclination to delve into that. And then I looked at like the bigger publishing houses, and I wasn't a known guy with a name and a product, so I kind of walked away from that. But I found hybrid publishing, which
Right.
is a lot of books get done that way now. So I found this company. So you pay them some money, they do the hard work for you, they do the editing, they do the cover design, the ISBN numbers, the print
Yeah.
house, the distribution, they do all that shit. Um, and so I sent them the book, and within 24 hours they came back and they're like, "Yeah, we would like to publish this."
Cool.
So we came to an agreement, and then I went through the process. And I think the thing that I'm proudest of the book, before we actually talk about the book, is the fact that it was so clean. There's usually two editing steps. There's copy editing and line editing, right? So
Hmm.
you got content and copy, basically, content and line. So, the punctuation, grammar, all those kinds of things. Kids are awesome. Like the all of that, the grammar and all that stuff. Mine was so good that they basically told my content editor, "Hey, just fix whatever you find. There's not much there, and worry about the content." And that was it.
Wow.
So yeah, it was pretty clean to start out with. Now there was a lot of content stuff that had to be fixed,
Right.
but anyway, so it's an action fiction novel. It's a Jack Ryan, Jack Reacher, Jason Bourne type novel. And again, keep in context, I never had any intent to publish this.
Yeah.
So, the main character is a lot like me. He's a retired infantry officer. Our backgrounds are I was just writing a story, right? And
Yeah.
you write what you know.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of stories there that are in there that are, some are mine, some are friends of mine. There's characters in the book that are based on people I know, whether
Of
a
course.
singular person I know or like an amalgamation of 3 or 4 people I
Right.
know. But the short version of the book is, it's a retired guy who's happily retired, and he's got a woman in his life who's brilliant. She works in DoD. She's a PhD. She's a Middle East expert, and they collectively get pulled into something that starts out to be a terrorist threat to the United States, and then it evolves into something very, very different. And it's a journey.
Check it out. That sounds good.
But it's the things I get from everybody who reads it are, one, never saw the ending coming, which is always great for an author
Oh
when
yeah,
you
that's
hear
great.
that. Like, yeah,
I thought
never,
about movies. I'm like, oh, didn't
yeah,
they didn't get
yeah.
together? What the heck? They're all supposed to get together. It's kind
Yeah.
of like that.
And there's even a lot of people who've read it twice. Like, man, it was all in there. Like, there was enough breadcrumbs where you could figure something out.
Yeah.
But so never saw the ending coming. When are they turning it into a movie is the next one I get, because it reads it's very fast paced, a lot of
Yeah.
action. And then the last one is, when's the sequel coming out? And I do have book 2 and book 3 written. I have to sell more copies of Keep Moving, Keep Shooting, which is the title of the book. If you go to Amazon and you look at the reviews, there's 109 reviews on there.
That's actually really good for a young buck. So
100 of them are 5-star.
great.
100 of them. 7 of them are 4-star. There's one 3-star, and I just got my first 1-star just the other day.
You know,
Yeah. And it's funny because I posted it, like a little bit of humility, like, well, it was bound to happen sooner or later. And I posted it on social medias, and I saw a little bit of a sales spike. Like people are like, all right, well, I'll take a look at this now, you know.
Well, I invited you to be a podcast guest from that
Yeah,
post.
right.
So,
yeah. So it's so the book is it, you know, the book and the writing and the series are really kind of my passion. It's what I would love to be doing all the time, but to do that, you know, you got to do other
yeah.
things. So I also host I talk kind of stuff, but I also co-host I co-host a podcast, political podcast, the Elsa Kurt Show. I was a guest of hers, and then she invited me on to be a co-host. So I've been co-hosting for about a year, and that's a weekly politics of the day podcast.
Cool.
Some of you may know Elsa. She's actually in Vanity Fair magazine because her Kamala Harris impersonation is top tier. She is amazing. Check her out
that's a skill nowadays.
Social. She's dead on. The cackle, and the amazing thing is that she makes up none of the dialogue. She literally just takes what Vice President Harris says and mocks, not even mocks her, just imitates her with her own words, and it's hilarious.
Yeah, that's so easy to do nowadays. So.
Yeah, so I do that with her, and I the series Reacher on Amazon. I was just the military consultant for season 3 as they were filming, which is pretty cool. Hopefully, and I'm not trying to jinx anything, you know, they'll get a 4th season, and maybe if I didn't screw up too bad, they'll bring me back.
That's a great show. So.
It is a great show, and really a great group of people. You know, I learned a lot, but I also, you know, it was a great group of people because they asked my advice and listened to my advice. You know, there was no pushback, which was great. But they always wanted to hear not just the what, but the why.
Yeah.
So it was a great relationship with those folks, and I had a blast doing it. So
that's great.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
So awesome.
But yeah, the books, you know, the books are what I want to do, but you got to do other things to do the book.
So you got to think something's got to pay the bill still too before that kicks in. So, well, Clay, I really appreciate the time, and I think your career's, you know, from paratrooper to paratrooper, it's always fun to see people that, you know, we crisscrossed here and there sparingly, but it's still it's a universal language, and it's fun to hear what people are doing and do sense. So I love that you found that thing. You know, I think a lot of veterans that get out struggle to find that thing. So
agreed.
I think if we want to put icing on this cake, it's you know, I'm actually trying to write some books myself. And I do a lot of shooting still, you know, and I think we talk about a lot that veterans get out and they just like, screw it, no more PT. And like 3 years later, you're like, okay, a little bit of PT, you know, and, it's just kind of like, you know, everybody has to find that niche that works for them. And if it's riding, lifting, or, you know, I see a lot of my veterans friends that are out and that, you know, like turn into full on bodybuilders or whatever it is, but like, you got to stimulate the mind. And I think that's a very key thing for us. And enjoy your stories a lot. It's been a lot of fun. We'll whenever you get book 2 published, definitely have to have you back.
For sure.
Tell that tale, and we'll have to tell some more tales about bad days of the paratrooper. So there's plenty of them. So well, thanks again. We'll have you on again.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.